JHK here for Sportskeeda, and right now, the GM and coach at Xtreme Couture, Eric Nicksick. Eric, well, how's life, man? So much has changed since the last time we talked.
Yeah, it's been busy. It's been busy. I can't believe it's been a year, man. I feel like I talked to you like 6 months ago at
Yeah,
least.
yeah, it is, man. It is. This sport goes by so fast, and you've probably been to every location in the past year. Fight Island, Florida, Vegas mostly, right? And yeah, let's just talk about Vegas first. You know, the last time we spoke, Vegas was shut down. You couldn't even go to the strip. Now, I just saw the news of Vegas lifting social distancing rules. Must feel good to be stepping toward normalcy, right?
Yeah, it feels great, especially for the hometown. And I think so many things have changed, especially with the local companies here in Vegas, the mom and pops places that really suffered when Vegas shut down. And I feel like now that hopefully that they have an opportunity to rebound and get back to some normalcy and find their way back. But yeah, man, it was tough to see because I'm born and raised out here, so a lot of those companies and those stores and those restaurants, they're no longer. So it's nice to see the economy bounce back, and housing market's going crazy out here. My wife is a real estate agent, so she's super busy, and everything's kind of getting back to normal, and that's what you hope for.
Any fighters going to check out your wife's business, seeing if they could find a spot out there?
Yeah, there's been quite a few, and she's been a great resource to a lot of the fighters, and really just because she does the loan processing side, and she also does the real estate side, so she understands all elements when it comes to real estate, and even if it's just a resource of information, she's a lot of help to these guys, and her and Misha Tate stay busy, and they're like almost like investment partners, and so they're always getting after it on something. So yeah, it's been good for both of them.
Yeah, speaking of Misha Tate, I mean, are you gonna be her head coach? Is that what's going
Uh,
on?
I really don't know, to be quite honest with you. I'm always all hands on deck, and I told her I'm available to help her in any capacity she needs. She's like a sister to me, so I love having her in the gym any way I can take it. So she has some great coaches that are helping her out. She asked me to do some work with her last week. I know she's about 9 weeks out of camp, so something she really needs to kind of nail down. But she's part of my family, so anything that she needs, man, I'll drop everything to be able to help her. And she's just a great person to have in the gym.
How is she looking? She's returning after years away from the sport, and sometimes you see that happen, and they come back better than ever. And it's not like she's really old or anything like that.
That she did it right. She came back, and she didn't have put these like huge expectations on herself right away. She wanted to come back and just see how she felt and see how she did in the room. And which to our surprise, like I didn't know that she was coming back to fight. Like she came back in the gym, and she's always been in the gym, and she's always been training. So she pulled me in the office and was said, "Hey, this is my this is kind of where I'm at in my mindset, and this is what I want to do." And it took me by surprise, but I was really happy to hear that because, I was there for the Raquel Pennington fight the last like couple weeks of camp for her, and she just wasn't herself, and I know her really well, and I could just see she was just kind of hurting inside with everything going on in her life. That I remember talking to her before she left for Raquel Pennington fight, and I was like, man, I hope that you find the love again for the sport. And I feel like that she has. She's been an analyst. She does her podcast. She works for ONE FC. So she's really stayed relevant when it comes to the sport and moreover the fight IQ. So although she hasn't been doing it at the highest level, she's also been doing it at the highest level as far as the mental side goes.
That's good to hear. And Extreme Couture, man, it has become a hotbed for fighters as well as coaches. I see Jake Shields. He's out there passing on the knowledge to many of the fighters, that train there. How has it been having such a credentialed individual on the mats with you?
It's unreal, and a lot of people don't understand like what Jake Shields style was. And he was labeled as like kind of a boring fighter, and he's not that. What he's able to do is just nullify guys and keep them on the ground, and do it in a way where it's just daunting and relentless. It's ground and pound, it's pressure, it's submission passes, and it really fits our lineage and our style at Extreme Couture. So he's been a huge resource for us and has helped immensely. Jumped right in, and has been a great coach to so many guys in the room and girls. Right away traveled out to Corner Patchy Mix, and I got him some classes already, and he complements what we do on pro practice days, where I run a really hard Monday practice, and it's not going to be a lot of technical breakdown stuff. Jake's forgot more grappling than I'll ever know, so it's nice to have him in the room, and then he'll run a lot more technical training stuff in the mornings and at night. So really just complements the room and helps us out immensely, and just such a welcome addition to Xtreme Couture.
You're so open-minded, man, and sometimes you see a lot of guys and coaches and just individuals that are not open-minded, you know what I mean, and it limits them. But you're like, you're gonna open up every resource for your fighters.
100%. I think that's the thing for me is like, there's going to be guys out there that are going to know more and might be able to help. And, I try to be like the Nick Saban when it comes to MMA. Is, Nick Saban was always out getting different offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators and fresh minds, and then going out and visiting other coaches and doing things to kind of expand their knowledge the best that you can. Because, at the end of the day, it's about our fighters. And if those guys are winning and the resources that you're bringing in are helping them win, we all look good. So, we always have a saying at the gym, there's enough cake for everybody to eat. And, I try to surround myself with the most talented coaches around, and, it just helps everybody. A rising tide raises all ships.
And the practices, I saw a tweet that you put out. You said that the practices are open for all the judges and referees to come in. Not many have taken you up on that offer. What are these individuals missing out by not putting in that extra work?
Well, it's just like we do in training. Us as martial artists, we're trying to constantly evolve and stay on the cutting edge. And there's things I think that in areas that, as far as your fight IQ goes as a judge, it really keeps you sharp and helps you understand what we're looking at, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish. Furthermore, I think it just opens a line of communication between coaches and judges. Not saying that like it should give us a leg up as far as like when we have a certain judge, but I've had judges come in and watch practices and don't even understand some of the verbiage. They don't even understand some of the techniques that are going on, which is fine. My whole point isn't to ridicule them or make them look bad. Our point is to try to educate, and moreover, like, make it open lines of communication and know, like, hey, in this position, what are you looking for here as a judge? Well, I'm not really too sure. They're just kind of holding them against the cage, like, well, the question is, do they want to be held there? So if there's nothing else, no other piece of scoring criteria that happens throughout that round, other than this guy holding this guy to the cage, who do you score the round for? And a judge was like, well, I guess I score it for the person that was holding him there. It's like, no, not you guess. The answer is yes. That's how it is, because, they're actively holding this person there. So there's a lot of, I think, just gaps in the education when it comes to some of the grappling, some of the cage control, some of those things that, all I want to do is try to help and broaden the horizons of any judge that wants to come into the gym.
Yeah, and like you said, you open the doors for them to come in. It's not like they have to pay. It's just taking the time. They just have to invest their time into educating themselves. And you have to be educated. You're judging fights, right? You're judging positions. You're judging damage. You're judging everything, right, during the round. So it boggles my mind that they don't want to learn.
It's these men and women's livelihood, and they really hold the key to their livelihood and their what their successes are. There's going to be sometimes there's going to be some bad judging here and there, but at the end of the day, if you're staying sharp on your skill set and understanding what you're watching, I think Joe Rogan said it best. It's like, man, it's like a government job. Like, they're just kind of going in and cashing a paycheck, and they really don't care. But there are individuals that do care, and they want to make sure that they're putting out the best product. People are going to make mistakes. I get that. But, if you're training and you're getting better every time that you're going in there and you're seeing things, but the key to that too is, John, is like, you have to set your ego aside. You have to put your ego aside and say, like, hey, man, maybe you're a white belt in this position, or you don't understand this as much, but it's okay, because I don't want you to feel like you're being ridiculed. I want you to feel like we're here to help. And that's, I think, the main thing is just kind of letting your guard down and know that, like, these gyms are opening themselves up to allow you to get better.
You have to be open-minded, like we mentioned earlier, and go in there and learn. And if you learn, then you understand. And sometimes when you go into those pro practices, you get to really understand if someone's really hurt or not. You know what I mean? Like, that's another thing is sometimes, you hear Joe Rogan yelling, he's hurt. But then the fighters say, I wasn't hurt.
I wasn't hurt. Yeah. Yeah. Ian Kulaba, he was pretending like he was hurt, and, he really wasn't. So yeah, definitely.
the PFL, right? A couple weeks back, you had that Fabricio Verdum Renan Ferreira fight. It was overturned days after, the event by the athletic commission. Does that set a good precedent for other commissions?
Yes and no. I think it's kind of to each is their own. From my experience, I feel like most of the commissions protect their own, and they're not gonna give them, like, you file these petitions and you do these things for just egregious actions, and most of the time the commissions will always have their best interests in their employee. They're never really going to say like, oh yeah, well, this was wrong. It's very rare occurrence. So I think I think all in all, when you watch the fight again, yeah, he did look like he tapped, but it wasn't to me like that big of a tap. And in my opinion, I think Keith Peterson's one of the better referees there is in the game. So to see it overturned, I was actually quite surprised, to be honest with you.
Oh, I think everybody was surprised. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
nothing ever gets overturned. I think the last time
nothing
was
at all.
Chas Skelly, maybe.
Yeah, crazy too. You're like,
Yeah,
what? Like, yeah, it's pretty nuts.
yeah, and how fast it was too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so someone must have some power over there. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I'm not saying anything about that.
And a couple days ago, you tweeted out something about how these judges, right? They're in control of so much, and a decision can affect the trajectory of a fighter's career. You know best, man. How much does it affect these fighters, like these bad decisions?
It affects them immensely, and it holds so much weight. I think is the best thing to say. I just met again, like Kai Kamaka has been coming in the gym. He's been getting his light rounds in and hitting some pads, but he's a shell of himself right now. He's hurt. He's hurt, and I went back and tried to watch that fight, even just the third round, just with a clear conscience. And again, like, I still like watch this fight. Like, how do two judges score the third round for the TJ Brown? And there was some back and forth with TJ. He was mad at me because he said I didn't like shake his hand, which is not true. I shook his hand immediately after the fight. But when the scorecards were being read, I was blown away. I was surprised. It doesn't mean that I feel like TJ did something wrong. He fought his ass off, and his coaches coached their asses off. It has no slight on them. My whole point is, like, man, you got a kid like Kai Kamaka who sacrificed so much. I'm not saying TJ didn't either, but the whole point is what you're bringing up is, like, man, these judges make a decision like that, and ultimately, like, Kai might not get re-signed. Kai lost out on half his paycheck. The fight of the night should have gone to those two, and it didn't. I was blown away at that too. So it really plays a whole lot on their confidence, I think, as things go later on down the line. But you know what? At the end of the day, man, it's part of the sport. This is what we signed up for. So we're going to have to wipe our sniffles and get over it. And you're going to have to get back on the horse.
Should judges and referees be available after events to explain their decisions?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Because here's the thing. And I probably didn't do the best job by, like, I went out there after, like, Kai was in medicals, and I snuck back out there, and the three judges, Sal D'Amato, Mike Bell, Adelaide Bird, Jason Herzog, and then the head of the athletic commission were all having this little powwow. And I knew that they're like, well, what did you see? And what? And I, wasn't the most professional, I'll tell you that. But I went over there and I was like, and I know Mike Bell, and I was like, tell me what you saw so I can go back as a coach and be better to coach the situations better. Because what I saw was my guy dominate or have 3 minutes of ride time, do this, do that. Tell me what you saw. And they didn't really have an answer, And I was like, all I'm asking is a coaching point to how do I go back and make this situation become better. And I think if you put them on the spot in a press conference like environment, and something they say is so egregious that makes zero sense, you put so much pressure on these athletic commissions to help educate them. Because if everybody's like, what the hell is he talking about or she talking about? Then you just know that that they have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. So it's like, hey, let's educate them correctly. But when the fight's over, they just like brush them off, like put them back there so nobody can yell at them or say anything, and then send them back out next week or send them out for the next card or whatever it may be. They should be held to that standard, because just like you're talking about, JK, it's like they have so much play on these men and women's career. They should be held accountable as well.
And something that resonated with me is a tweet that you put out, and let me read it to you. The judging we've seen in the past few weeks has me nervous to the point it might make me coach situations differently. I don't that resonates so much with me because why do you have to do that?
Yeah, and let's go off of that, right? Because a lot of people were like, "Well, can you elaborate?" And I didn't want to get in this like rabbit's hole of things, but let's give this situation some light. So let's take the main event of last week for an example. By no way, by no way is that a 10-8 round. Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler. So Michael Chandler swings the round back and wins the round. But in my mind, you have Sal D'Amato and Chris Lee giving this guy a 10-8 round. And if I'm cornering that fight, if I'm in Charles Oliveira's corner, by no way am I telling my fighter that was a 10-8 round. I just don't. I'm not. So let's use this as an example. And DC brought up a great point. And DC talks about, well, those same two judges gave the Glover Teixeira and Anthony Smith that same round where he knocks his teeth out a 10-9 when that was a 10-8 round. We all see it. It's a 10-8 round. So where are the standards being set? Just help me understand. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm just trying to understand some of the consistency between where you see a 10-8 and where do you see a 10-9, because there's no way you could pick up on that consistency whatsoever. You just don't get it. So I might coach that round now thinking in my head, well, I look every time the fight starts. I look and see who's judging the fight. I want to know who it is, because most of the time I know what most of these judges are looking for. If you name a name, I can kind of tell you what they're looking for. And now if I know if this guy's there or this girl's there, that might have been a 10-8 round. You got to think that in the back of your head. Now you're coaching 2 and 3 differently. God forbid, if it's a 3-round fight, you're down 2 rounds now. So all of these things are now starting to compile, and you start thinking about more and more as a coach. Is like, man, I might have to coach these situations differently. When I think it's a 10-9, they might think it's a 10-8. So, I mean, it's hard, man. It's hard to imagine the gravity of what some of these judges have now. And, you have a 30-27 one way, 2 ways, and then you get a 30-27 the other side. And thank God the right guy's winning or the right fighter's winning. But that's scary when you see scorecards read off like that. How in the hell do you see that? It's completely polar opposite.
The Park versus Chukwi fight. One of the judges gave it a 28-28. Another judge gave it a 30-25, and I believe a 29-27, right? But 28-28, even with the point deduction?
Blown away. And that's the one that I tweeted that too. It's like, oh my, here we go again. What are we looking at? You got a 30-25 and a 28-28. So that means to tell me that whatever education that they're getting, there's no rhyme or reason behind it. There's no big John McCarthy sitting down and let's watch tape together as a team or as a commission or a unit and go, what are you getting off of this and what are you getting off of that? It's almost like you're just bringing a bunch of people in from God knows where and going, all right, I trust you, but I don't know where the hell you came from. But you're going to hold the livelihood of all these men and women right here. But we'll just go with that. And then hey, if you screw up, don't worry about it. We got your back. Like, man, we got to be better than that. And a lot. The funny thing is, a lot of people think, like fans think it's on the UFC. It's not. It's the athletic commissions. They're like, UFC, you got to be better. It's not the UFC's fault. They're just going to cities that the commissions don't know what the hell they're looking at.
Yeah. Man, this is just gonna be a long, drawn out process of fixing it, but eventually it'll be fixed, man. I just feel like more coaches, more fighters, more managers, even me, need to speak out and do interviews and do podcasts and eventually people will start listening and do something about it. I feel like they'll do the right thing because there's too much money involved, I think.
100%. But you brought up the best point, and you and I talked about this on Twitter a couple weeks ago. Make them available to give their reasons why. And here's the other side of that. They might say something where I go, I never thought of it that way. Oh, I didn't see that, but maybe you're right. I'm trying to look at it from an empathetic view. Maybe there's something that I'm missing that I can be better at, right? Prove me wrong. I want to hear it. Like I have no problem saying yeah, right. I didn't see that, but for the most part, they're like shunned away. Like, you can't talk to them. They're out of here. Yeah, because they screwed up the whole time.
Yeah, that's great. Now let's switch gears to some positivity, man. Let's get into some of the fights that you got coming up. Some of your fighters. The big one is Dan Ige versus the Korean Zombie. I'm so hyped for this fight. And when you heard that Dan Ige was getting this fight, what was your reaction as a coach, as a guy that's looking at it from that lens?
Man, I've been a huge fan of the Korean Zombie for such a long time. Love the camp. I love Eddie Cha. I love all what those guys are doing over there. So, I'm a competitor, and that's just it. I want to compete and put our best product out there and see the best man win. And this is a fight that Dan asked for. He's brought Korean Zombie up a number of times, not out of disrespect, because I tell you what, Dan Ige absolutely admires this guy, and I think that's just it. We just love his fighting style and what he's going to bring the best out of all of us as a coaching staff, as a fighter, as a gym. You couldn't ask for a better matchup, and Dan's right there. Dan had a great fight, his last one against Gavin Tucker. We went back and sat and watched Calvin Kattar again today, and went back and kind of reviewed some of that tape. And I thought Dan put a lot of really good things out on tape and showed a lot of good things in that fight. He's right there, man. He's right in that mix, and when it comes to the 145-pound division. But this is going to be definitely one of his biggest tests.
That Calvin Kattar fight, do you feel like that fight is setting up Dan to make the improvements that he needs to beat the Korean Zombie at this point? Because, everything's about timing.
Yeah, I think getting a tough dude like Calvin, who pushed us to 5 rounds, who, when we went back and watched the tape, like round one was really close. And there was some things he did aesthetically that would sway the round in my mind, or hey, if we didn't do this or this is our round. It was a couple things. That was it. It wasn't like he was blown out of the water. We go out and win round two. Round three was a lot of the same as round one. There was a few things aesthetically that he did where had he won those, like he could be up 3 rounds going into 4 and 5. So that fight was there's a lot of good things we took out from that fight. And I feel like the year that we had in between Calvin and then the Gavin Tucker fight, there was so much growth, so many good little things that we took from that we got to build on. And the nice thing is that none of that's on tape. He went out there and starched Gavin in 22 seconds. So there's so many improvements that now it's kind of a mystery. So we have things that we worked on and we've implemented all in the room that there's no tape on quite yet. So we're excited to be able to show some of those things against a guy like Korean Zombie.
Yeah, you're right. There is a lot of mystery around Dan Ige and his developments and his evolution, and that Gavin Tucker fight, man. People say online, like, does Dan Ige have that knockout power? Hey, he showed it in that fight, man. It was clear as day. Just like you said, starched him.
Yeah, it was a great challenge for us because I know Gavin well. I trained with Gavin. He's an unbelievable kid, unbelievable talent. So when that name came across the desk, it was like, oh man, we're in for a tough one here, but we have some really good things we can do in this fight. And thankfully, God willing, Dan went out and just made the right read at the right time. That was something we saw with Gavin, where his chest got big, and we knew that what he was gonna throw, and the read came back true, and Dan was able to step in and throw the punch as Gavin was stepping in, throwing his as well. And that's part of the MMA. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail.
I know there's a lot of respect towards the Korean Zombie, and when you look back at his last performance against Brian Ortega, do you feel like there was a lot exposed in that fight, or was it just, a bad night for him? He just didn't execute.
I think a little bit of both. I think the being in Abu Dhabi and knowing what that travel was like, and having the fights that were over there, for me as a coach was very daunting. And I think it fits some guys well, and sometimes guys can't get on the regiment. So when I saw him starting off a little slow, that's what kind of started off to me thinking like, well, I bet he hasn't really been acclimated correctly the way he wanted to. And then I think Ortega did a lot of things to kind of stymie him. I think he had a lot of problems reading Ortega being in southpaw. the kicks were bothering him, the calf kicks were bothering him. And then, right when he got rocked in the first round, I felt like he really wasn't the same throughout. So I just think he had a little bit of an off night, man. I don't take too much stock in that. We expect the best Korean Zombie we're going to see on June 19th, and that's what we're preparing for.
Do you see a long, drawn-out fight, or do you see something that could end early?
We prepare for the long, drawn-out fights. I think if you look for those home runs, I think you find yourself overthrowing and putting yourself off balance. And so we prepare for those long 25-minute fights and the drawn out as much as you can. And yeah, man, we always call it the Happy Gilmore. In the movie, and the Happy Gilmore hits a hole in one. He was like, "Oh, that was way easier. I think I'll just do that." Well, hole in ones don't really happen all the time. So you got to prepare for the war more than just the one hitter quitters, So I expect Zombie to be there for 25 minutes.
When you're sitting in the corner, and you've been in the corner so many times, has any result ever really shocked you?
No, I mean, I think some of those decisions sometimes you get surprised on, and you think things are go, and some have came our way too. You sometimes you're the beneficiary of some of those, but nothing has really shocked me too much. I think the one thing that definitely comes to mind was the Aljamain and Petr Yan fight. I was so surprised to see Petr Yan throw the illegal strike, because I was like, man, we're all even Mark Smith's he's down, and then boom, the knee came, and I was almost is he joking? There's no freaking way that he, I was just, because I know Petr, he's a good guy. He's not a filthy, dirty fighter by any means. It was just almost like a brain fart. So it's kind of blown away that he did that. He threw that strike in that moment, and just kind of had that brain fart, if you will, So that was very surprising for me.
Yeah, the biggest brain fart at the wrong time is just
God, oh man.
And it's escalated into this whole thing now, right? It's just man, I hope they end up fighting very soon. And I just saw you posted, or Aljamain posted a picture. He's back in training now. Is he getting in there slowly, or how does he look?
Yeah, very slow. Yesterday was his first day back, and we just got back on the pads and just ran through some Dutch drills, pushed his cardio a little bit. Just got him in there, man. And he had a big smile on his face, and we were cracking some pads and talking some trash and having fun with one another again. And I think that's important. Moreover, guys that are coming back from injuries or have a little bit of a long layoff, I think it's important for them just to be around the camaraderie and be around the team and, talk a little bit. And Aljo's a very, very good coach. So having him in and having his kind of mindset and watching things in the rounds, and he helped out Dan Ige and helps out with the team. So having just in the room is an added resource that we definitely missed out on.
Yeah, and another fighter that, of course, is one of the biggest names now in the industry is Francis. Francis goes in there, wins that title. It's a big celebration for the team and for yourself, man. It validates a lot, right? Do you feel like it validated a lot for you, that victory?
Yeah, I do. And I feel like there was a lot of questions being asked about what he was doing training wise with his grappling, with his wrestling, and and that's fuel for us, man. We had to hear it over and over and over, and it was funny too, because I posted the picture with DC, and that was just a troll move on my part, we had DC come in. He literally came in for an hour, and I was kind of bugging him too when we were in Fight Island, bro, I just want you to come in and just really I wanted DC to talk about the preparation and getting the mental side. It wasn't much of the technique stuff. It was just hey, man, I wanted Francis to understand that to exhaust all your options. Don't step over $1 to pick up a dime when it comes to your training partners. Hire people, bring people in, make everything you can happen for this win, because the money will come later on. And that's what he did, man. And DC came in and helped us really lay out the blueprint on what we needed to do outside of the cage. And then, Usman comes in for the week, and now Usman's a wrestling coach, and it was just great, bro. Everything kind of fell into place and what we needed. But really, Coach Dewey Cooper and I are in the weeds with Francis. We really set up a good training system for him. He believed in everything that we were telling him to do. He listens well. And I think that's the most important thing with Francis is if you're able to explain the reasons why, it resonates with him. He understands, okay, I understand if I do this, this will open up this, or if I do this, this will negate that. And that's all we have to really do is just explain him to him and help him grow his fight IQ. And then you saw it unfold on that night.
I remember speaking with another fighter, and he told me that Francis, he's so intelligent, and a lot of people don't understand how intelligent he is, and you know best, right? You've been working with him for a while now. Yeah, just he showed it, man. That night, he showed his intelligence, his improvement, his evolution, all of that, and he won the strap. Now he's in Africa right now, enjoying the fruits of his labor. When can we see him back in Las Vegas with you?
So he's going to hopefully be back in early June. I think he has like an appearance June 5th in Miami. So he'll make that trek back. So he'll probably go to Miami for a few days and then head back. And we have nothing on the docket. I mean, they haven't told us anything. I've heard from multiple sources that don't even worry about Derek Lewis yet. It's going to be John. I've heard it's Derek. I've heard it's this. I said, look, man, like I'm not too worried about any of that stuff. When that time comes, we'll be ready and we'll get prepared. My biggest thing for Francis is he's been so locked in on attaining the title that I'm just glad he's got a little bit of downtime. I'm really glad he got to go home and celebrate with his countrymen, his mom, his family. That stuff always very important for me, to be able to see him put that belt around his mom. That's been one of his goals that he's had written down for a long time. So, he's my family, man. Like we're close. Me and him are tight. Love him like my brother. So just seeing him happy and seeing him succeed on all the trials and tribulations that he's had in his life, it just makes it all worth it being a coach.
Did you ever expect this to be the situation for him? Because before, in the lead up to the rematch against Stipe, everybody's like, okay, John is next. There's no doubt about that. Now we're sitting at, okay, is it Derek Lewis? Is it Jon Jones? Stipe is gonna get the winner next. Did you expect this circus?
Kind of, sort of. I think you just always expect something, and I think that's the beauty about MMA is like you always just kind of roll with the punches. You're never too set on things because it's like, man, injuries happen, opponents change, God forbid a pandemic happens, it's like you just constantly just trying to figure it out. And that's the essence of MMA is a constant evolution. And you have to roll with the punches, literally and figuratively. You have to show up sometimes and then change your game plan and do things on the fly. So, I actually thought that they were going to give Stipe an immediate rematch if we won. That's what I actually thought. Mm-hmm. So, and then the way that Francis won, I knew that Stipe is going to need a little time off too. So, I mean, I hope it's John. Not for any reason other than the fact of I think John's the greatest to ever do it. And like I said earlier, I like to compete, man. And I think John is the best. And I want to just compete against the best guys while we can. And who doesn't want to fight Jon Jones,
Exactly. Hey, one last thing, man. I'm so happy to get so much time with you. The video of Joshua Fabia hanging Diego Sanchez upside down and punching him and kicking him, man. As a coach, when you watch that, you're just like, what are you thinking?
It's negligence, it's just flat out negligence. There is no purpose to that. There absolutely is no reason to do something like that to any of your fighters, to be honest with you. Like, no one in their right mind is going to hang somebody upside down who obviously has had a long career. I want you to think of something too. And I want you to look at what Max Holloway is doing, and he's not sparring at all. And Max has earned that right. He's seen thousands and thousands of rounds, but his product is getting better and better and better because he's resting his brain and he's doing things to take care of himself for later on down the line. We learned that at an early age or early time at Xtreme Couture. We had wars in there, man. I've been there for 14 years, so a lot of the wars that we saw in the gym were all for naught. And then with the likes of Jay Haran and Forrest Griffin and Mike Pyle, I got to learn from those guys a lot. And I think if one thing that I took away from that was, limit the gym wars and take care of your fighters more, because at the end of the day, their longevity is their cash cow, and then being able to stay. But I think when it really push comes to shove, at the end of this all, you want them to be competent human beings at the end of their careers. And I think you see those guys, not to name any names, but you see some of the stuff that they're talking and how they are, and they're not all with it because of the brain health. So to see a guy like Josh Fabia, I don't know his background, man. I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff. But what he did on video, hanging him upside down and kneeing him to his head, and kicking him, there's just no rhyme or reason for that. It's just straight up negligence, if you ask me.
It was great, man, Eric. I'm glad we caught up, and and you got some big fights coming up, and so many guys coming to you, and putting their career in your hands. It just shows that the level that you're at. And man, why are all the Hawaiians coming to you, man? Like, they love you.
It's Brad Tavares, man. I'm telling you, it's all Brad. It's all Brad. These guys, I joking around with Brad yesterday. I was like, man, I feel like they grow out of your couch. Like they're just like this moldy fucking couch that you got, and then all these Hawaiians start coming out of it because they're the toughest guys in the world, man. I love having them in my gym. They're just great human beings. I had the luxury of playing college football with a lot of guys from Waianae and from
Mhm.
Hawaii. And man, I hit it off with them right away. I love the culture, everything about them. So I don't think it's by any coincidence that, a lot of the primary guys in our gym are Hawaiian. And man, it's a lot of really just because of Brad Tavares. He's brought so many guys in, and he's really raised the toughness in the gym by far.
No doubt, man. Man, I appreciate the time, Eric. Thank you so much, and hopefully, I'm gonna reach out much sooner than this time, and we'll catch up.
I'm always gonna have time for you, John. Anytime you
Uh,
need me, brother.